The Blast from Our Past Network.
Hey everyone, co-host Corey here. I just wanted to take a quick second and say thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Without you, Podcasting After Dark would not be possible. If you would like to help the show grow, please consider signing up at patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. You can also support the show by purchasing one of our awesome t-shirt designs on our merch store at podcastingafterdark.com, or by picking up a copy of 7 Winters Alone by David Irons on paperback, hardback, or Kindle. Just search for 7 Winters Alone on Amazon or click on the link in the show notes. A free way to help out is to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Those reviews are huge for us and really helps get the show in front of new listeners. Again, thank you all so much for the love and support you've given us over these past few years. It really means the world to us.
Welcome to our Patreon exclusive interview series for Podcasting After Dark with your hosts, Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer. Tonight's interview is with the star of Dead Kids, TRON, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. Actor Dan Shor. Dan Shor, thank you so much for being on Podcasting After Dark with Corey and myself.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Good morning. Good evening.
Good morning, good evening, good night. Good night. So our podcast breaks down movie scene by scene, and which is a very challenging process at times, depending on what movie we decide to choose to break down. But we broke down Strange Behavior, aka Dead Kids.
Yeah.
Right.
And what was it, about last year, Corey?
It was season 1, so it was actually probably about a year and a half ago. It was one of our earlier films that we did.
And I told a story in the beginning of that broadcast or that recording that I had seen Dead Kids at the New Beverly Cinema in Hollywood years ago, and it just stayed with me ever since. And like, we have to do this movie on the show. And so, you obviously are the biggest part of that movie that we love. And there's so much more, but having you on our show is like a really big deal. So thank you for being on our show.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see behind me, but I have a Tron poster. I have my Tron shirt on. I can talk about Tron forever, but I really want to talk about Strange Behavior, aka Dead Kids, especially that dance scene. I watched that movie, for the first time, a year and a half ago, and it changed my life. I dance like you and everybody else in that scene now. I show my wife that and everything. I love that song. That movie is so much fun, and we hope that we kind of pushed it out there and everything. But can we dive into Strange Behavior, aka
I
Dead
love
Kids?
Strange Behavior, and I love AKA Dead Kids. I wish it was called Dead Kids.
Me too. Same.
Yeah, I don't know how long ago. It was maybe 6 or 7 years ago. There was a screening of it in Brooklyn, New York, and Michael Murphy and I were invited to it, and the place was packed. And I rewatched the movie for the first time in maybe 30 years. And I realized, damn, that was really good. At the time when I first watched it, I was younger and more judgmental.
Yeah.
And I remember watching and going, wow, I was a little tense in this scene. I wasn't natural in that scene. And, I was really watching myself. This time I had a massive grin on my face. I saw the love that went into that thingy. I saw the curiosity that went into it, the playfulness, the satire of an entire genre without being satirical. It was,
totally.
You know what I mean? We played it straight. And it was just the take of a horror film made by really, really smart people.
And with a fun dance scene right in the middle of it. Like, how
Right.
often do you see a horror movie with that,
Never. And that's Billy Boy Condon. And Billy Condon became the director of Dreamgirls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you
huge.
kidding me?
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Are you?
And I was going to say, did you get tense when you had to show your butt in that one scene?
No, and I do remember Arthur Dignam afterwards saying, "Dad." That's all he had to say. Dad. And I've heard from more than one person in my life that I had one of the best butts in the history of cinema.
Good
And,
butt.
We're not going to argue with that.
I'll go with it. And I'm going to say it's still there. It still works. I can still stand up and sit down.
Oh man.
Well, but I think it's a testimony to how awesome that movie is. If you can watch it for the first time when you're 41 or something, for the very first time, and it can be completely engaging, completely engrossing, and more than anything, what matters, completely fun.
Yeah, and the nicest, that's just Michael Laughlin setting up an environment on a foreign soil. We shot that in New Zealand.
Yeah.
The most beautiful place on earth then, and the most beautiful place on earth now, filled with incredibly talented people who have, Michael Murphy, Louise Fletcher, Arthur Dignam, Day Young, superstar. Just really talented people who were, we were not horror movie people. We thought of ourselves as artists.
Yeah.
And we were all treated that way. And it was playful in that way. You know what I mean? And we knew it was supposed to be fun, and it was fun.
Well, there's something about that movie too that I feel sets it apart from so many other films at that time when it came out. It's so unique in the sense of it builds upon the growing fear and the less is more attitude. That personally Corey and I love so much. It's like that old school Hitchcockian way of like.
That's exactly what Michael Laughlin was doing. And we remember with minimal coverage. They did as little coverage as possible. He would set up long shots and let them sit. And it was very interesting because Laughlin was not, he was a producer before he ever directed. And I think this might've been his first directing job. Yeah. But he had a great cinematographer, and he had Billy Condon. And Billy Condon at that time was maybe 23, 24, wow. Kid. And looked 16. He's the scarecrow at the beginning of the goddamn movie. Yeah. And Billy was a child, and he's become a master. But he was a little super nerd, probably like you guys,
Well, I wear that like a badge of honor.
Right. But he was just this little cinephile. Yeah. And he could talk Hitchcock, and the two of them would plot these shots, and we would do them, and we go, "Where's the coverage?" Only because as movie people, we knew that you need coverage in case you suck on the first take. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we never got it, and we didn't need it because they set up an environment that was going to be fun and rewarding and allowed us to be creative and playful.
That's awesome. Did you get to experience, New Zealand in between, date takes and days and everything while you were there?
Absolutely. Nice. Yeah. But I only saw the North Island. I never got to the South Island. And, but I got a lot of the North Island. I went swimming on black sand beaches and snow skiing just south in the mountains.
That's awesome.
Auckland, New Zealand reminded me of Los Angeles in the 1940s, maybe 1950s. No crowds, beautiful beaches, mountains, no smog, stunningly beautiful and humane, remarkably humane. And I saw I traveled a lot. And I shot another movie with them, with Laughlin. Down in New Zealand called Mesmerized with Jodie Foster and John. Yeah. And that came later, and we got further north in the North Island. We're up Bay of Islands, all the way at the north end of the island. So beautiful.
And like you said, it's still very much the same in many ways, humane, and probably one of the safest places to be in the world right now.
Yeah, and they won't let people in because they're not stupid. Yep. They recognize that people elsewhere are gritty little fucks.
Yep.
And they're not.
Well, you mentioned LA in the 50s. Are you originally from LA, or where'd you grow up?
No, I'm New York. I grew up in Manhattan. I'm a New York City guy. And I'm back in LA now for the first time in 18 years.
Wow.
And I remember back then I was a New Yorker, and I was never not in New York. Then I go back to New York about 12 years ago, and people are saying to me, God, you're so LA. And I'm going, I am so not LA. I have a severe attitude problem. But I love it here. That's the weird thing. I actually love having a tree. Oh, a lot of trees. I like having trees, and
Love nature. Yeah.
And soil.
Yeah.
It's now dust, but it's soil.
That's what my wife says. My wife, we're in Santa Monica, and my wife says, I love it here. I love our view of the ocean. But that's about it.
Yeah, totally reasonable.
I'm an East Coaster originally from Maryland. I went to LA. I was there for about 15 years. And then now my wife and I are up here in Oregon because I really needed trees in my life.
Well, I was considering moving to Oregon, and
okay.
But you guys are on fire. What the hell?
Yeah, it's like you can't win,
No, it's just, it doesn't make sense.
No.
What's going on now since COVID and the reality of climate change and climate change denial, which is psychotic and unacceptable. Everybody that I talk to from every walk of life is going, where do we go? What's next? Where do we go? Because we all realize we've just all been unemployed and we have to restart our lives in some way, shape, or form. Where are we going to do it? Where's the nicest place? And everybody was talking, a lot of people were talking about the Northwest because it's so beautiful. And with climate change, it's going to, still be cooler. Well, that's not true.
That's not true.
You know what I mean? And we're not all going to move to Maine yet.
Yeah, no, we're coming though. We're
coming. I know a wonderful actor named Xander Barkley who moved to Maine. He got there first. What the hell are you thinking? And he looks like he was smarter than us.
Do you still have family in New York? And are they doing okay?
Oh, yeah, God, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I have one stepsister who is not doing okay. Physically, she's fine, but she became a Republican somewhere, and not a Republican, a Trump Republican.
Oh, God.
I have other cousins who were Republicans because they were successful.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Fiscal conservatives who don't want to pay taxes. I completely get that.
Yeah.
But lying and destroying humanity is something different.
Yeah.
Denying the truth and destroying your nation intentionally. Not okay. It's not okay.
Yeah, we were living in wild times right now. Corey and I, right before we went on the air, we were just kind of having a similar conversation and like, where do we go from here? I have a now 7-year-old son who is very much like my beacon of hope. And try to instill values and morals in him. And we think about when we were kids, did we envision the world looking like it is now? Or no, and certainly not from the moral majority. No.
These guys' entire ethos has been to be morally valid and to tell the truth and be decent, and not be legislated to take care of your neighbor, but to take care of your neighbor. And now what we're finding is that people have a complete and stolid belief, and I now have it, that people are basically horrible.
Yeah.
And I used to believe people are basically good. And now we find out that people are basically horrible, and we're voting for that.
Yeah.
That is psychotic. And it's not just psychotic because that person that people voted for is illiterate and immoral. He's not even charismatic. He's a bad actor and a bad liar. It's stunning. And to be apolitical in this time is almost impossible.
Yeah, it really is.
You'd like to be, you'd like to go, oh, I understand where they're coming from. But where they're coming from is the hate of other human beings.
Yeah.
And believing that everybody is basically bad, so fuck them before they fuck you. And that is not how we're supposed to live this life. That's not what we were taught in school. And I remember, you think about Trump and his parents, who were some of the worst people in the world themselves. They were slumlords and horrible human beings, taught him that to do unto others as you would have them do unto you is a joke. And that everything that you were taught in school is a lie.
Yeah.
Play these suckers. They're suckers.
Yeah.
A sucker is born every day, and they were created by a morality, and that was Christian morality. and he plays against it, and he's now being followed by Christians. There's something upside down and inside out. And oh shit, we're supposed to be talking about dead kids.
No, well, it kind of segues into that. I feel like some of these people got an injection through the eye, and
Right.
see how I brought it back?
Yeah, thank you.
It's just the fact that like reality is now scarier than the horror movies that we grew up watching. There's just something just terrifying about that.
No, it's absolutely terrifying, and you can't get away from it. When Biden was elected, I stopped watching MSNBC, and I started calming down and not screaming at the TV every day. But we know it's not over. It's just beginning, and they're still doing it. And it's shocking that the Senate knows that they're propagating a massive lie, and not just one massive lie, a series of massive lies that can do nothing but destroy democracy. I don't know if we'll ever have a fair election ever again, or believe that we'll have a fair election. I worked as a pollster in the polls. I took people's votes in New York City just at the last election. And there were Republicans there were Democrats there. Impossible to cheat. An impossibility. People are sworn in, they're decent, they're on both sides, everybody's on the same team.
Yeah.
All this democratic feeling was remarkable. And everybody was so right on, and it's everywhere, and you're being watched everywhere. They have destroyed democracy. Nobody's going to believe it anymore when you have an entire Senate lying. It's one thing with one schmuck who's no liar.
Yeah.
But everyone else backing him up. Anyway, dead kids.
New Zealand, it rules.
I just say to button that up really quick. You're right. Passivity is not a healthy thing right now. So
You can't.
Nope.
Yeah.
In regards to dead kids, you were talking about, the tone and the way the scenes, just like a scene will sit, and there was like not a quick cut or something jarring. I love that. There's so much beauty in that. And your relationship with your dad in the movie is so good. Michael Murphy, like you said, you listed all the actors in the film, but let's talk a little bit about how you got cast for that. Was that like an immediate thing, or because you had been working up to that point, right?
I shot a movie called Wise Blood. John Huston directed Wise Blood. And that I'd worked before that. I'd done a mini series on TV called Studs Lonigan, where I played Studs Lonigan. And then, which was a famous turn of the century book. So all the literati watched it. And then I got cast in Wise Blood, John Huston, which is also Flannery O'Connor, more literati. And Michael Laughlin and Billy Condon are both literatis. They're both, they're gonna watch a great piece of literature. They came in and offered me Mark McClure's part.
Oh.
The sidekick.
Yeah.
And who is delicious, by the way.
Oh, so good.
So much fun.
And just so natural, so ridiculous. They offered me that part. And I said, no, I want to play the lead. At this point, I'd been playing character sidekicks. Yeah. Well, Studs wasn't, he was the lead, but I'd been playing a bunch of character sidekicks. And I remember my unbelievably beautiful girlfriend saying, Dan, you're actually handsome. And I was like, yeah, I could prove that, and I really wanted to play the leading guy. So I talked them into it. I said, I want to play the leading guy. And they saw me because they had seen me in Wise Blood, where I was an inbred Southern. And I was twisted. It was character. They didn't know that I was handsome. And then I showed up, met with them, and they said, shit, yeah, okay, let's do that. And it was done. There was no audition.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I surprised myself. I mean, because but it happened. And then, yeah. I'm just
glad we're talking about this movie, 30, almost 40 years later. Actually 40
it's
years
40
later.
years. Yeah.
Wow. Oh yeah. 40th anniversary.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
There are no coincidences. So that was planned.
Yeah.
But then from there, did TRON immediately happen right after that, or did you?
It was close.
Okay.
It was close. There was a period of time, I don't even remember which came first, but I was doing a play in Los Angeles when I got TRON. I produced a play called The Sport of My Mad Mother, which was a punk rock musical.
Nice.
Cool.
And Peter Jurasik was one of my best friends, and he was in it with me. someone from Disney came to the play and brought Peter and I both in. We were playing Ram and Crom, no, Fack and Crom in this punk rock musical. And we became Ram and, God, I forgot what his character's name was. But within one meeting, and we got the parts, both of us.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an audition, and I'm sure I did Dead Kids before that, because I walked right into a major audition without having, just walked right in.
Wow, and just feeling good about it. Was the punk rock musical what like genre of punk rock? American punk rock, British punk rock? But
it was American punk rock. I had done this play in England before, and this is my favorite story about the play, was that I had seen I did this punk rock musical in England when I was in drama school. We did it outside of school at the Royal Court Theatre, which is a big deal. And I had seen this punk rock band. I played drums in the show, nice. But I had seen this punk rock band called Generation X. And Generation X was brilliant, and it was led by this singer called Billy Idol. And Billy Idol was the best performer I have ever seen, and it isn't close. It ain't close. Well, it was in a small punk venue also, and this guy just blew the roof off the place.
Yeah, I bet.
And so when we did the Sport of My Mad Mother in New York, we set it on a rooftop. In LA, we set it on a rooftop with a punk rock band and me dancing in the front, like a madman.
That's awesome.
Cut to the video of Dancing with Myself of Billy Idol when he became Billy Idol.
Yep.
Copied our set to a T.
Wow.
So I was doing him in a play. Somebody saw that, stole our set and put him in it. I friggin' love that.
Maybe it was, didn't Toby Hooper direct that video? I feel like he did.
He might have, yeah. So I don't know if it was Toby Hooper. I don't know who saw it. All I know is that you steal from stuff. And when he stole from me, I was so freaking flattered.
Yeah, it's a
I was doing him. I was just literally doing him.
Yeah.
For a whole play. Preening and prancing and mugging. I mean, God.
Well, it also comes full circle, like I said, because I dance like you now from Dead Kids.
Okay,
so,
yes. And I don't think I was doing anybody. That was just me and Mark having fun.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
And there was a choreographer, so they were already doing that. I guess that's new wave dancing, Talking Heads and Blondie and all of that stuff. New wave. It's new wave. And
I love that era. I really do. I'm not a dancer. I mean, I love to dance, but I don't consider myself to be a very good dancer.
No.
But I love, that's what we love about the 80s, is that it was such a carefree, no one gave a crap.
Right.
Just have fun, feel the music however you do, and there's something beautiful about that. And the punk rock scene that was really emerging in those early 80s in the US, which obviously was taking from the UK, which just exploded with such a great new sound, was so badass. It just injected such a new kind of vibe into the music scene here in America.
Right, it did. It was fun. And Billy was in that. I mean, I'm assuming that Billy that was a lot of Billy.
Wow.
That's cool. That's
nice.
Cool.
And so you go from punk rock hero into Ram.
Yeah.
Which very technologically, advanced film in Tron still looks fantastic today. Zach and I, a movie that literally I've been watching my entire life, and Zach and I saw it in the theater. It was my first time seeing it in the theater, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. At the in downtown LA, there's this theater that actually has like a mezzanine, a second level.
I know.
And it's such a beautiful theater. And I took my wife there. She wasn't my wife at the time, but now we are. And we watched,
it worked.
It worked. But we're watching it and I'm like, this is amazing. But when they go into the maze on the light cycles on a big screen, I was like, oh my God, this is like 40 years later. And it's so good. It works so well. It's so beautiful and so unique looking. But what was the process of working on that movie as technical as it was?
No, we were just acting in a cartoon. It was all storyboarded, 100% storyboard. So you could see the storyboard before you did it. We were on a black screen, black box stage with black boxes on them. So we would climb up a black box, okay? Or we'd sit on a black box, stand on a black box. And those were just like, the life cycles were just, what are those called? Sawhorses.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's
And we
awesome.
would sit on them and then we'd be in massive close-up. And the director, Jesus Christ.
Linsberg?
Linsberg.
Listenberg.
Stephen Linsberger would yell at us. Right along, it's coming. Ah! And we would just do what he said. You're going right. And we were just play acting the whole time, like 4-year-old children.
That's awesome.
You know, that's all we were asked to do, and we did it. And I think the key to all of that is that, for me, my experience, because most of my experience was with Jeff and with
Bruce
Boxleitner. We loved playing with each other. You know, we were 3 little boys playing with each other, and like make believe in the backyard.
Yeah.
And Lisberger set up that environment where he allowed us to do that, and encouraged it. And he did one. He was an animator, you know, and a cinematographer long before. He had not really directed actors. He had done commercials. And he didn't really know anything about how directing actors, and he didn't have to. He hired people who were right for the parts and who were capable of making stuff up and doing what we had to do. So he would set parameters and talk us through. And with such love, the guy had so much fun. He was in heaven. You know, he's like a kid with toys. He's a toy player. He was a game player. He would be on Today. He would be what they call those guys who play video games. He'd be that guy. And he got to create his video game using human beings. And
it's awesome.
And we trusted he knew what he was doing, which he did. And we liked each other. So playing with each other was really, really fun.
And Zach and I talk about that a lot of times with these films, you know, holding up so well over time. We suspect that a lot of them is because the fun and the love that was happening behind the scenes, you know, comes through. And, you know, I think that a lot of times gives movies this X factor where you don't really know what it is, but there's this energy to it where I think it's a lot of people are having fun, and, you know, you're confirming that.
When I became a director, and when that's what I do. That's it. If you set up a good environment where people are having an amazing time, or having the time that needs to be seen on the screen. If there's a scene of pain, a director's going to come in with pain. You know what I mean? They're going to come in with that flavor that morning to help you guys get there. Not just you, it's the cameraman, it's the guy setting up the lights, it's everybody. And you set that tone. And when you're doing a playful movie, make it playful.
Yeah.
Even in the horrible scenes, when you're in a life cycle, you're running for your life, it's got to be fun. It's a cartoon. We knew we were in a cartoon.
What did you think of that the costumes when you first saw them and everything? We're like,
oh, I loved it because I had never been in better shape in my life. I hired a trainer for that movie because I knew I thought I was going to be Robin in Batman and Robin. You know what I mean? That's who I was in this thing. I'm Robin. So I knew I got to look good. Bam, pow. So I actually hired a trainer, and when they brought those skin tight things in, I went, oh yeah. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. And then this is the problem that happened with Jeff and Bruce. Not so much me, but Jeff and Bruce. This catering, that these major moving catering on a major movie, damn, it's good.
Yeah.
It's the best food you ever had. It's like, on major films, they really cater well. And then you start eating, and then you don't stop.
Yeah.
And everybody had to worry about their tights. And Litzberger would come up to Jeff sometimes. Jeff, you're looking a little tight in your tights. Very funny.
And he's like, Dan, great ass.
Great ass. Yeah, well, he did. He said, Dan, you're in amazing shape. I go, thanks. And I was. I've never been in that shape again.
It was my son is now totally immersed in Marvel and he sees someone like Chris Hemsworth and he's like, or we're watching Hugh Jackman or something in X-Men. And he's like, you look like him, Daddy. I'm like, oh, thanks, dude. And he's like, I said, like, really? He's like, well, he's a little bit bigger. I said, well, Bo, he worked really hard to get into that shape. So
Yeah, and he's on a 90-foot screen.
Yeah.
It's a 90-foot screen. You look big. Even I look big.
Oh man. No, I just think it's wild that like what an interesting time this must have been for you in the early 80s because you're just rolling from one project to another.
Yes.
Whether you're supporting or leading, and it just must have been crazy.
It's hard. It was wonderful. And that led to a massive fall because like you're saying, I was going from one great thing to another great thing. And it was not effortless. I auditioned for everything. Not everything, totally. Some of these things, TRON, I did. Not everything, but most things I'd have to audition for, and I'd be a second choice for a lot of things. But then it went down to, after Cagney and Lacey, I did another Bill and Ted. But after that, it started to slow down. And part of that was a changing of my energy because everybody thought I was 20. And by then I'm 35.
Yeah.
You know, and I just don't have that, and I have more gravitas, and without the looking like gravitas, you know.
Yeah.
I had more angst and more stuff. I had more life.
Yeah.
And they couldn't pass me as a 20-year-old anymore. I'm like, okay, now I'm 40. Do me, and it didn't happen the way I wanted it to. So when you talk about that, how great that was. The second thought that comes to my mind is how terrible it was after that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm. And then the third thing comes is how wonderful it is again.
Yeah.
And not just because I'm working, it's because I found other things in life that are just as gratifying and fulfilling.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting, especially in your 20s,
right,
when you really don't know yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anybody ever in their 20s that said, I'm enlightened, you know?
Yeah, no, but it was glory days. Like you're saying, it's sort of like, it really was glory days. And I'm so pleased and proud when people like you call me and say, let's do this thing. I'm a little bit shocked that anybody remembers that I exist, or that one of these wonderful gigs is connected to a different gig. Yeah. Everybody knows me as Billy the Kid or as Ram. But very few people make the connection between one to another, to Dead Kids, which is magical. You know, very few people make all of those connections. So, and I did have glory days, and it was an amazing time. And I left Hollywood for 18 years, and now I'm back. I've been back for 4 months.
That's awesome.
And I've been seeing dear friends, but I am still feeling the feelings of how much fun it was to be playing with the most talented people on earth, making timeless works of art.
Corey and I both had so much fun, obviously seeing you on screen, then watching you now.
Yeah.
You bring so much joy to our lives in that sense of like, we want to see more of you. I remember seeing Black Moon Rising and like, holy crap. Wait, I know that dude. Back before I knew characters, I didn't know names, right?
Yeah, back when you're younger, yeah.
Back in the days. And then I see Black Moon, and which I personally love Black Moon Rising, for many reasons. But then I see you do that. And then, I was a faithful Cagney and Lacey watcher back in the day. Wow. I had interviewed Matthew Berry on a previous podcast when we were talking about The Wraith, and Matthew Berry had a couple episodes on towards the tail end of that show, and he had some funny memories of Martin Cove specifically. But Cagney and Lacey is one of those shows that often gets overlooked when people talk about great shows from the 80s. You know, they talk about Magnum PI, or they talk about Knight Rider.
This won the Emmy every year. It was
huge.
Great TV show.
Yeah.
But it was an adult TV show. It was not Knight Rider, and it was a story about two women who went who experienced life. We were all sidekicks.
Yeah, totally.
It was all about them, and the two of them were so brilliant. I would be shocked every week by how brilliant they were. Every day, how open and how important their work was. Yeah.
And that's a show that holds up well. I've seen a couple episodes recently, and I have quite a few friends on Instagram who are like binging it right now. I don't know if it just popped up streaming somewhere, but it's in the zeitgeist again. And I couldn't be happier because, like Zach said, I too watched that show as a kid. I probably didn't understand, obviously, a lot of what was happening, but I liked it, and I remember it fondly.
And what I remember is that it was a truly issue-oriented show.
Yeah.
And it became, and it was personal. And it wasn't just that, oh, women get molested. The character will be molested. They have to live through it and feel it, see it. And you get to love these people. And that was it. It was about, it wasn't just about cases and solving cases. And that's why it's going to live for a very long time. And it was, that happened later. Now you're seeing The Sopranos, where you get to know everybody.
Yeah.
That was the first one. Was when you took hour-long television and a police procedural and turn it into a story about human beings and culture and society and about women.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing thing to be around all of these. It was a women's show, women directors, women writers, and Barney Rosenzweig, who ran it, it was his wife, Charlotte Corday. It was her show. It was a women's experience. And I had a neighbor here in LA who lived right next door to me named Nancy Malone, who directed this show. Women everywhere. And I remember how much fun it was. And I remember, here's an interesting thing. A couple of years ago, Jessica Jones on Netflix.
Yeah.
I shot an episode of that. And there were women directors, and it was a mostly female crew. And it was a very fascinating experience because it was the first time I've ever been on a set filled with women. And I made one joke, which I always do. I walked on this set and I looked around, and the first AD, the second AD was unbelievably beautiful. The first AD, unbelievably beautiful. The makeup woman, unbelievably beautiful. And they're all wearing little short shorts. And I go, God damn, I've arrived on the island of beautiful women. They all shut up, looked at me, and
oh no,
I'm dead. I was dead.
Oh no.
Nobody talked to me for the rest of the day.
Oh no.
Nobody. I was like banished.
Yeah.
I spent the rest of the day playing with the extras.
Oh.
Men and women. Tyne Daly would be the bawdiest broad you ever saw. I worked with Angela Lansbury on Murder, She Wrote. The broad was filthy. She was 80, 70, playing 80 and just talking about dicks. In a Suzanne Plachette, I worked. These women were foul. But the reality was that it was a boys' club.
Yeah.
And that these women had to fight to enter that club or were really comfortable in that club. Either way, it was a boys' club. But I remember Cagney and Lacey with all these women in charge, being as bawdy as the boys, as funny as the boys, as brilliant as the boys, in that the world is morphing. You know what I mean? It's trying to find its feet again in this new sexual revolution. And that Jessica Jones was not a fun set. But that doesn't mean the show wasn't good. But it didn't have, there was no fucking joy in Joyville. And that was, and I think it shows in the show.
Yeah.
But that's because everybody is redefining the universe.
It's harder to find joy, I think, in artistic projects.
Or anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere. I'm serious. Anywhere. It's hard. But back then, that was before COVID, they did Jessica Jones. But
But I will say,
but no, I have been what's it called, sexually harassed. I've been there.
Yeah.
I've experienced it. Now, mind you, I'm a guy. So when I was sexually harassed, I was flattered and told him to fuck himself. I've had casting directors who tried to do the casting couch with me when I was in my 18, 19, 20 years old. And I just told them to go fuck themselves. And I didn't get freaked out at all. I grew up in New York. We saw perps. We grew up with that shit.
Yeah.
but I'm also not a woman. I've never had to fight my way through a man's world. So I get it. I get it. And I think somewhere soon we're going to find that balance and figure out how to do it again. And men and women who really do like each other are going to like each other. And men like me who used to, be obnoxious. I took no for an answer, but I was obnoxious.
Yeah.
I stopped being so obnoxious. It's happened to me only because I'm older. I think I would still be the same way if I were younger, but and I'm more harmless looking. You know what I mean? That happens with age, I think.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's fascinating. I just remember these film sets that were so much fun. And I always thought the women were having fun. I always thought the girls who were flirting with were having fun. I never had a position of power over anybody, but I always thought teasing and playing was what goes on.
Well, there's a level of play. It's
But there's
tricky.
a line. It's tricky now because there's a line. You keep hearing about these actors who did all these things and they did absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Al Franken did nothing.
Yeah. Oh,
Nothing wrong. Not even did not cross any line anywhere in any way at any time.
yeah.
You know what I mean? He made a bad joke, but it wasn't even a bad joke. It was a joke that woman had made many times. You know what I mean? So,
Well, I think too, there's a conspiracy, a valid conspiracy theory you can go down to. Some people were very happy once he was out of power because he had such a powerful voice for people. Politically.
Yeah. No, he was brought down, but no, it's the Democrats who blew it.
Yeah.
I don't blame the Republicans for going after him. I don't blame that part of the game. I actually understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But when you got this, come on, you got to back him up on this one. You got to go get the bad guys and back up the good guys. And, that's just what it is. Harvey Weinstein was a bad guy because he raped people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I was gonna when you brought up being in New York in that environment, especially in the 80s, 42nd Street.
Oh, I grew up in that as a child. Well, I was in the movie theaters in Times Square watching James Bond at the age of 12, and some guy would come sit next to my brother and me and pull his dick out. But I remember in New York, we would stand up and go, "Fuck you," and then the whole thing, and the guy would run away. We're New Yorkers. That was not, and we did. I don't even remember going home and complaining.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting. You tell that story now because Corey and I do a lot of this on our show. We go down these rabbit holes where some of the movies we choose bring up moments from our childhood. And I look back on many moments, and you'll tell that story now to people of this generation or of the current generation. They'll be shocked. Oh my God, I can't believe that happened to you. And you look back and you're like, yeah, it's just a story. I mean, it's like a wild story.
Yeah.
And I have told that I say it with a smile on my face.
Yeah, totally.
Because I'm proud we handled the creep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We handled the creep. I have stories of a guy pulling a gun on me in the street and me punching him in the face. And I was so proud of myself. Now I'm an idiot. But then I wasn't because nobody was getting shot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Different time.
They didn't shoot anybody. This was the 60s. And they didn't shoot people. They robbed, kids would rob kids.
Yeah.
But they didn't shoot kids. So when he pulled a gun on me, I didn't even think that it might be loaded.
Hmm.
And I was really fast. So what you do is you punch and run.
Yeah.
And I did. I punched and I ran and got home and I said, "Dad, somebody pulled a gun on me." Said, "You're here, right?" I go, "Yeah." Good.
Your dad's like, "There you go. Good job."
Well done, kid. And then I raised my daughter in New York and walked her to school and home from school every day until like junior high school. We didn't do that. We walked our asses to school ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we never became protective and our kids are not nearly as strong as we are.
No.
My daughter is a wimp. She can't handle anything.
I was going to say, not, that's a rough segue. Well, not really, but did that intensity and that quick draw prepare you for Billy the Kid and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Oh, absolutely, obviously. And I could twirl a gun by then.
Oh, cool.
No, I couldn't. I couldn't do anything.
You're like, I've been doing this since I was a kid.
No, all that I did on the set was throw guns all day long. I had done that with Ram. I was playing Frisbee. I got to play Frisbee all the time. I was practicing Frisbee and swirling and spinning. And I did the same thing with Billy the Kid, just played with the guns. Yeah.
You mean you weren't like Gene Wilder in Blazing Saddles where
Yes, I'm just like, yeah. They did have a stunt person, obviously. But I was pretty good.
Well, it's interesting though, because you said that you made that movie at a time when the trajectory was changing for you.
Oh, the trajectory was the end of Cagney Lacey, and no. At that time, I was still good because I had just come off Cagney Lacey. They killed me, which broke my heart.
Yeah.
But it won the Emmy for Best Director, Best Actress, and Best Show for the episode of my death.
No, okay.
So
nice.
I got it, and I'd already, and I think what I was wanting at that time was more money. So as an artist, I wasn't upset. As a human being who knew that here was an opportunity to stack it away for life, that broke my heart. But Bill and Ted came pretty much right after that, and I was on a little bit of a roll. After Cagney and Lacey, I worked for about 14 months straight.
Wow. I
mean, just a real roll, including Bill and Ted. So I didn't feel my career was on decline at that time. Yeah, it was incredibly fun. I mean, you can see how much fun we were having.
Yeah.
But here's another thing is the reason that movie is so good is because of Keanu and Alex. I mean, it was a Labrador Retriever and a Schnauzer, just playing for 8 weeks.
Oh my God, I totally see that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it was. And then you had the rest of us who were just like, I guess I was a spaniel. And, and we were all just the side dogs. And we were all having so much fun with each other. Those two worked all the time. They were never off camera. So we didn't hang out as much with Keanu and Alex as we thought. But the rest of us, I mean, I became good friends with Jane Weedland and with, Jesus Christ, Al Loomis. I mean, those guys, we all became really, Robert Barron, who played Abe Lincoln, and I were in the bar every night together. Abe Lincoln outdrank Billy the Kid, and it wasn't.
Well, he's taller than you, so.
Oh yeah, and he is an old hippie. That guy was an old hippie, and he had it way over me. I was trying to keep up with him, and Napoleon, Terry Camilleri and I were in a play together, and a different play, and I ended up directing him in a play later on. We were really good friends for many, many years before that and after that. And we still are. He's in Australia, he's in Aussie, but we're still, I consider us very close friends.
Those are my favorite kind of stories. What we were talking about, we just reviewed The Wraith last month, and like Nick Cassavetes and like Matthew Barry are good friends, and it kind of came from that movie. It's like, that's awesome. And again, that's the stuff that I think we see on screen, and that's the love and the energetic love that makes these movies just hold up so well over time.
And it's interesting how many life friends you make. You could, I have life friends. One of my best friends right now is Tim Carhart, who I did Red Rock West with. We spend 8 weeks in the desert, hanging out. We're in the desert. There's nothing there, and there were like 5 actors in the whole goddamn movie, and he and I just hit it off. And today, 30 years later, we talk every day.
That's awesome.
Can we talk about that movie really quick? Because that movie. Corey and I both worked at video stores back in the day, and I think you can tell we're obviously cinephiles. And Red Rock West came out with that poster of Nicolas Cage and Dennis Hopper and Laura Flynn Boyle. Really beautiful colors in the background, like these purples and blues. I was really drawn to it. I was drawn to the poster,
Yeah.
and I was a huge Nick Cage fan at the time, still am.
I still am too.
And that movie comes out, and it for a minute it changed my life.
Wow.
Because it was a noir film. I hadn't seen a noir film up to that point in that era that really moved me the way Red Rock West did. Beautiful, beautiful film.
Yeah, it was, and it was. I mean, Nick Cage was amazing in it, and it was a funny thing is that Tim and I we were together the whole time, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, that was one of those experiences. Oh, here's my favorite Dennis Hopper story. We ate lunch with Dennis Hopper, I'm going to say 5 days a week for 6 weeks. That's 30 lunches. 1 month after shooting that in LA, I run into Dennis Hopper and say, "Hey, Dennis, how you doing?" He goes, "Who are you?" I went, "Fuck, Dennis." Jello brain, an absolute Jello brain. He had been fried. He was so fried. But with all decency and respect and love, there was no negative, like, "Who are you?" Nothing like that. It was just like, he fucking didn't remember. He really didn't remember. And it was amazing. Absolutely brilliant. And that's who Dennis Hopper was. And I'm going like, that's Dennis Hopper. That's it. But I've done it too. People have come up to me and I go,
yeah,
it happens. Hopper was fine because I knew he was fried. He did more LSD than I eat cheeseburgers. So, I mean, I understood that, the guy he had an excuse.
Yes.
And he didn't look at me like, "Where do I know you from?" It was just, yeah.
Yeah. So, and just going back to Red Rock, John Dahl directed that.
Yes.
Phenomenal director.
Phenomenal.
That just you worked with, going, like you said, going back to Dead Kids, and so you worked on so many projects with so many talented people. And you're saying that, and like Corey was saying, the fun comes out on screen. Know that the relationship, like I might have said earlier, you seem like you were having a really fun time on the set of Dead Kids, especially with Michael Murphy. Overall, was that a fun shooting experience with Dead Kids?
Dead Kids was unbelievably fun. Unbelievably. Partly because I worked a lot. I was all in the middle of it. So I got to play with everybody. But I considered it playing. I don't remember ever once feeling like I'm acting. I felt like I'm playing.
That's great.
And that's what everybody did. And we had this great leadership in Louise Fletcher and Michael Murphy and Arthur Dignam, the Kiwi actor who played the bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, we just had so much fun. And that had a lot to do with Billy and Michael Laughlin and Michael Laughlin's wife, who designed the sets. And Susanna Moore is her name, and she's a brilliant writer now. Susanna Moore designed all the sets. I mean, we had parties, dinner parties almost every night.
Nice.
There was that European tradition where I've worked with European directors as well, where after shooting, it's a dinner party. Everybody doesn't go off to their own thing. We would have dinner parties, and you'd be at a restaurant or you'd be in the hotel, and everybody would sit around a large table, drink wine, and laugh and tell stories. And I remember on Mesmerized, another Laughlin set where we played Trivial Pursuit with John Lithgow and Jodie Foster.
Nice.
John Lithgow was Harvard Phi Beta Kappa. Jodie Foster was Yale summa cum laude. I went for 1 year to Northwestern at the time. And I could play with them. They did not kill me. I was so proud of myself for being able to play Trivial Pursuit with these fucking nerds. And I could keep up with them. Yeah, it was awesome.
Michael Murphy was on that Mesmerized as well with you.
Yes. Oh God, yeah. And we hung out we shot another movie together as well. And I hadn't seen him in 20 years when we did that screening about a year ago. 2 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. It was like we never were apart.
That's great.
I teased him from the first moment we saw each other. He got me back better. And that's what's amazing. When you have these things, that even people that you don't see that often. I saw Bruce Boxleitner right before COVID, we were at one of those shows. What do they call the card shows? This
Convention.
Comic-Con
Yeah.
convention. And we did one with, and there was a little TRON group. And when we got together, it was like we had not missed a beat in 40 years.
That's awesome.
I don't think I'd seen him in 40 years. And we sat there together and it was like, man, the exact same guy, the same voice, everything about him is the same. And it was delicious. Actually, we had seen each other when I shot the TRON, after the TRON second movie, we shot a scene to set up the third TRON.
The one that's on the Blu-ray, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we did the Blu-ray and then we haven't had the third TRON.
Right.
Yet.
Yeah.
So I'm saying anybody who listens to this, write in and get a third TRON. Dan Shor. Dan Shor needs a fucking job.
Well, you said you moved back to LA.
Yes.
You said you're back.
Yeah.
What are you working on right now?
I'm just writing. What we're working on, I went through COVID in New York for a year and a half. I'd been doing theater in and around New York, doing regional theater. I did some episodics, I did some TV, but mostly was doing theater. And then after COVID, not after COVID, a year and a half into COVID, I came out to LA to see our house, which had been rented out. It's a wreck. It's a disaster. So for the last 4 months, I've been repairing my house, as well as just got new agents and have just started going out for auditions and hoping to regenerate an LA career. Yeah,
that's great.
Nothing has happened yet, but I've got agents and trying to regenerate a career. And we'll see what happens.
Well, we were talking to Tom Noonan a little while back. And he was,
it was right during, like right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, right in the beginning, I think. Yeah, when everything, and doing a ton of theater in upstate New York, and just it being brutal on him. So I can only imagine.
Well, we were blessed. My wife and I are blessed. We have a great apartment in New York City. This house had been rented out.
That's great.
We were not going under, and we were in the middle of New York City during. So we were watching real tragedy.
Yeah, ground zero.
Real massive fear. And we're set up in New York in a way that most people aren't. So we weren't worried. We had unemployment. We had everything going.
Is that tragedy that you saw, is that coming through in the writing now, or are you going in a different direction with it?
I'm going in a completely opposite direction.
Good. Like erase that tragedy, just go positive in a positive manner.
No, just be playful again. Just write things that are fun. I'm involved in 1, 2, 3 projects, and none of them are not completely playful. The point is that you heard me rant a little bit here. My rants are okay. There are other people that are a lot better at it and a lot more informed than me. And I'd rather they take the lead in that. Yeah. I have a friend who says, Dan, let's do this. Let's talk about this. Let's get on the air and talk about this. And I go, I think Dave Chappelle is better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really do. I think Jon Stewart is better. I don't think Bill Maher is better, but I like watching him. I watch because I like what he's talking about.
Agreed.
But I just don't think he's that gifted.
Yep.
But am I better? No. He'll read up. He'll get informed. I react on emotion.
Well, we need more Dan Shor. We need more Dan Shor.
That is true, and more, fun in everything.
Fun,
so please, we're rooting, and I know our listeners are rooting too.
Here's one of the things that I remember about myself. When you go through these declines, right? When I went through the 10 years from the age of about 35 to 45 before I left, you guys know I ran away from the world and moved to the South Pacific.
Oh.
From 35 to 45, my career in LA was struggling. I was teaching. I do a gig every now and then, but I was going broker and broker, and I was directing a lot of theater successfully. But you don't make any money. I wouldn't be able to pay my bills, and I was just going further and further and further into debt. And then I was always, every night, every day, what did happen? What happened? And the way I describe it, and then something happened to me about 3 years ago. a little bit more than that. I fell in love with Jeremy Lin, the basketball player. I don't know if you guys know sports. Jeremy Lin was Linsanity in New York.
Yep.
Every team he was on, the team got better. And then people would complain, well, he's not Brad Pitt. He's not Michael Jordan. No, he's not Michael Jordan. He's Jeremy Lin. And every team he's on is better. And then he disappeared. He's gone. Nobody would play with him. He's gone. And I identified with him so much. My heart was so broken because I know that that's what I did. I don't think I'm Nicolas Cage, but I can play with Nicolas Cage and he's better when I'm with him.
Mm-hmm.
I may not be Jeff Bridges, but I can play with Jeff Bridges and he's better when I'm with him. And I know that that's what happened and why I'm in so many projects that lived for so long.
Yeah.
And not because I started them, but because I was in them. And there used to be people in the industry who knew that about me and kept bringing me back. Michael Laughlin kept bringing me back because every time I'm in his project, the vibe is good.
Yeah.
He knew that I brought that aside from talent, but my wife kept saying, why is Sean Penn a star and you're not? I said, because you guys know baseball?
Yeah.
I bat 350. Sean Penn bats 550. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean 350 sucks. It's unbelievably good. You know what I mean?
Above average, yeah.
Yeah, it's way above average. It's all-star.
Yeah.
I believe that that's where I sit. And,
Agreed.
But the ones that survived, I did survive and I'm still here. But the point was I went down and I had to come back up and travel through that miasma of self-loathing and questioning to realize, wait a minute. If I'm not going to play in the majors, I'll play in the minors because I love them. And all I had to do was cut down my expenses and I could have a great life again, which is what we did.
That's beautiful. You lifted our day.
Oh, you did too. Thank you.
For people listening offline as we were kind of approaching this meeting, just the energy, even through email, was so positive. So, I knew immediately, I'm like, Corey and I are going to have a really good time talking to Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
This was a huge honor. It really was. Again, so much fun. You were awesome. And as someone who's, you've been in both of our lives, pretty much our entire lives. And you've brought nothing but positivity to both of our lives. And I honestly always shout the praises of Dead Kids, AKA Strange Behavior, anytime I can. So thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to Podcasting After Dark's exclusive interview series with Dan Shor. And, as always, thank you for your support.
Imagine being one of the last people on Earth, being trapped alone with something not human, something always watching, something always waiting. What would you do? Where would you run? Where would you hide if you were haunted for 7 winters alone?
Podcasting After Dark presents 7 Winters Alone, a dystopian haunted house story by David Irons.
Available now in paperback and ebook.